Hi, I'm Deb Smucker, and we decided to do a little video today, a little bit out of my box. I normally do finish coaches. You've seen me do some of my favorite ones, and we'll end up close to one of them today when we finish. But I wanted to come back because you've always heard me, as I walk around a coach, talk about the underbelly of our coach and some of the things that I call bullet points in our build. I've worked with luxury full-time coaches for a long time, and there are things that I saw when I came here that I've never seen anywhere else, and I've often explained it, and I'm sure you've seen it on videos, but never maybe a step-by-step. So I'm just going to hit some of the features that I think are really important to our build, that make us extremely unique in this industry and make us a coach that is climate controlled, it is extremely strong built, and has a lot of features that you just don't see everywhere. So we're going to start back here. This just came out of chassis prep today, came inside this part of the building. Chassis prep, when they get it in, it's just basically the frame. So we have a 12-inch I-beam frame. We have outriggers. Our outriggers are 18 inches. And one of the features that they do that you don't see very often, nobody does, is everywhere that we have a slide, we do double outriggers back to back. And that's because where the slide comes out, you need strength when that floor comes down. So we have extra strength here. We do back to back outriggers. We use 18s instead of 10 or 12s. In our slide channel, we do a complete box channel for our slides, so we have as much strength there as we can possibly get. We also, in our framework, one of the things that caught my eye early on was one of the features that we have going for us is we do not do a piece rate build. So our production line is paid to come in every day to do quality work. They're given the time to do their work, and they're able to do some steps that most companies wouldn't do because of the time features. And one of those is the way we do our frame. Everybody will have your underbelly. Ours is enclosed with polypropylene, which is the plastic that you see back here. It's it's flexible. It will be put on the underbelly of this all in one sheet with cross members that go across. Makes it extremely strong. I've even seen guys stand in it before. That's attached to the bottom. One of the things that happens then is they do a layer of astrofoil, which is that aluminum bubble pack insulation. That's underneath this bad insulation that we have in here. And most everybody has a lot of bad insulation in the bottom of their underbelly, just as we do. But one of the features that you don't see happen, if you notice, you see pink along the sides. Our frame is a 12-inch frame with a 2-inch box underneath it. Gets us close to 15 inches by the time we're all done. That is a lot of steel that's going to conduct hot and cold into your underbelly. So one of the things that really impressed me was not only did they pack this, take the time to go around after they had all this done and wiring done and tanks put in place, but even before that, over in chassis prep in that building, they actually, one of the things that he does is when this is still a raw frame, he goes around and lines this whole frame front to back with astrofoil. And then after they get these stages done, they go around in here and they put in the bad insulation. That makes a huge difference from what you feel on the temperature of this steel and what you feel in here. And if you notice, this is where our holding tanks are. This is where our water lines are going to run. So being able to have more climate control in our underbelly is a huge feature. And this takes time, and so that equates into a really unique feature that we do in our coaches. That's one of them that really impressed me. The other one is where our holding tanks are. In our underbelly alone, most companies will have at least one form of heat. Most of them have only one form of heat, and that would be the radiant heat from the heat runs and from their furnace. What we do is, first of all, our heat runs are very unique because we do not do an aluminum pipe or tube that goes down each side of the coach and drop registers into it. If you notice, each one of our heat runs has its own its own heat vent that goes through. Each register is attached to its own heat run. And the reason that's important is when we are bringing heat, this one has the Arctic package, so we're putting in two 35,000 BTU furnaces, and we have to get more heat to the back of the unit. And by just dropping in registers wouldn't do it. So each register has its own heat run, so the heat is going to come clear to the back of the unit, and you're going to get as warm back here as you do up in the front. Also, the way these heat runs are arranged in here, you can see that they go along the tanks, the fresh water, which is 100 gallons, and then each gray and black, which are 40s each. It runs along that, and that gives you radiant heat. And on each one of these tanks, we also have a heat pad, standard. It's on every coach that we build. You have a heat pad on every tank, and then when this is all done, they will run a 2-inch heat run into the underbelly that will be direct forced heat that goes into the underbelly. So when your furnace is running, you're going to have forced heat go into the underbelly. So we have 3 forms of heat in our underbelly. Where our tanks are, and like I said, this is a 100-gallon tank, and most tanks, as most of you know, are just mounted on rails. And the rails are what hold them up. And if for any reason a tank would, because of climate changes, temperature change or whatever, bloat and you change form, you've heard of them falling down. All of our tanks have plywood. That's what this tape is for. They put a strong piece of plywood under each tank and tape it so that it will give it more structure. And then they have straps underneath each tank that hold it up, and then they set it on the rails. And that's really important because if anything does happen as you're going down the road and this would come off the rail or a holding tank came off the rail, they are not going to go clear down to the bottom of your coach. They're not going to go through the bottom of your coach. So they actually have more support under each tank. So that was a big feature to me as well. You can see the straps up here maybe a little bit better on the gray or black. And what they've done here is they run them underneath and then they take them across too. And this helps them. They leave them a little bit loose so that if it would tend to change form a little bit, it can, but not get out of control with it. So they give it a lot more structure for them to stay more secure. You can see the wiring going through this coach. They're just starting this, so they have a lot of it laying around. We weren't sure what stage it would be in when we got back here today. But as I mentioned to you, this coach has the Arctic package. So one of the things I want you to see is that in an Arctic package, in our coaches, you will go from either one 40,000 BTU furnace to two 35s. And that's what we'll take. That's the only time you will see registers in our floor, is that there will be 2 registers that will go clear to the back of the unit and come up, and that's to get more heat dispersed more evenly. They also insulate every water PEC line, so you can see here that they started running these through, and they have the thick foam wrapped around them even after they come into the underbelly. They don't just wrap them where they're exposed in the pass-through storage or behind the docking station. They keep them insulated all the way in through here where we have all this insulation, the bottom insulation, and then insulated the water lines. So that's a huge feature as well. They also will then put an extra heat pad on the fresh water tanks. So instead of 1 on the 100-gallon, you will have 2. And so that's kind of what our Arctic package entails. One of the other features on this coach is our leveling system. And our leveling system is the equalizer leveling system. And you can see the size of the legs. And if many of you have looked at auto leveling systems, a lot of them, the legs are small. They are straight up and down. One of the big features about this leveling system is that you can mount these legs at 5-degree angles. And when you mount all the legs at 5-degree angles, that's what stops all that movement that you feel when somebody gets off the sofa, somebody gets out of bed, somebody walks through the coach. Having your legs at an angle like this will stop all of that side-to-side motion. The other feature is, if you look at the pads on these legs, most coaches will have 6 to 8 inch pads on the front legs. Our front legs have 12-inch rounds, and all 4 of the back legs have 10-inch octagons. And so that's a big feature, because on most campsites you would be good with these. I would say if you're in the middle of a field, you might still want to put something underneath them. That would kind of be up to you. Another feature as you get up here is our pump, and our hydraulic pump is always kept open so you can always get to it, because it's very important if you ever have to run this manually that you're able to get to the top of the pump. And if you notice here too, all of these lines, they're automotive lines. They're not just rubber or plastic. They're automotive hose, and each hose is color coded, and that's because each leg of our leveling system is color coded. So if for any reason you have a problem with a leg, you can actually, when the gentleman comes to look at it, you can actually show him which one of the valves is having a problem. And so we call it trying to make it as frustration free as possible. This is another big feature on our coach, is that most inverters, and they haven't put this one on yet, but most inverters would be mounted on the back wall, on the bulkhead wall of this front part of your storage. We had some clients who talked to us and they didn't like that the inverter was always hanging on the wall, hard to get to, hard to reset. And so our guys designed this tray. It's welded, it's extremely strong. In fact, this tray was on this when this frame was upside down. It's bolted right into the frame, and your inverter will be mounted here. This is your transfer switch, and everything that you need to get to with your inverter will be right here. So very easy access to do any maintenance or to reset. Those are some of the high points of the frame. One of the things I would like you to see right here, one of the first things that happens over on the other side of this building when this frame comes in, this is probably one of the exciting things for most of our clients, is the first thing they do is they put this name on it. This is Bruckler's. I'll be calling you and sending you pictures today, but this is your frame. So all of those pictures you just saw, this is your frame. But this is important because all of our workers know that they're going to meet the people that are coming in to pick up their coach. This goes through as a personal build. When we come out here, we refer to all the builds by the customers' names. And so we don't have hundreds of units sitting around waiting for people to buy them. We have a minimal amount of units that are actually built for sale. Most everything we build is tailored and retail sold. So everything you get is fresh. It's never been sitting somewhere. When they build our floor, we do not use a laminate floor at all. So we don't rely on compression for our strength in our floor. This one's a little bit farther along, but I still want you to see it, because what they did was they put out a layer of Darko. And you can see it right here. Darko is a flexible material, but it is a vapor material. It's a vapor bond. And then they do a layer of astrofoil. So this was what I was telling you that was in the bottom of the underbelly and also along the sides of the frame. And then they come in and they lay a layer of the bad insulation. Then they bring in, what's really different about ours is we still use a structured floor. So they bring in our floor framework, which is 16 on center, cross members. It has a lot of strength to it. Once they set down the framework, which is welded framework, then they bring in another layer of the bad insulation. You've probably seen this on Ed's video. And they cut it so that it falls into the sections from all the cross members and all the T's that are in the flooring. They cut it so that that will lay down in there and not get too compressed. Then they bring on the 5/8 tongue and groove plywood. And if you were here to do a video with me, one of the things that we always do is I have everybody walk on it, because what they don't feel is you feel no movement at all. You don't feel any sponginess, you don't feel any dipping. 5/8 tongue and groove plywood on top of the frame. And then the big feature is after they've done that, they've cut all the openings for the registers, for the island, for plumbing. Then they take the Darko and they cut it, and they actually, as you can see here, wrap it up around the side of the frame. And the reason that that's important is because under this plywood, you have about 3 inches of insulation. So what's happened now is by wrapping that, you're holding 3 inches of insulation up against the floor that you walk on, and your floor is going to be heated from both sides because you have a heat run in the underbelly and you have heat on the top. So once your floor gets warm, it's going to stay very consistent. It's not going to get cold and have to have the whole underbelly heated up. It stays very consistent. and it's very strong. The other thing the Darco does, remember me saying that it was a vapor barrier, and when they lift this up and set it onto the Bruckler's frame, one of the things that's going to happen is that it's now going to protect your floor, where a lot of your wood is, from anything happening if you would ever have a problem with one of your holding tanks. So if you do have a problem with a holding tank, it is contained to the underbelly and does not affect the floor. If you had a lot of moisture in your underbelly, it could actually affect the floor if it wasn't wrapped in the Darco that protects it. The other thing then is when they set it onto the frame, it actually creates a dead air space, which increases our R value again. This is one of the tiles that we use, and they're Shaw Residential. They are actually hand laid, and you can see how thick they are, and you can see how well they move. So with the movement of your coach, they flex more, not like linoleum that if it gets cold or brittle, it's going to break or crack. It's not like bow floor, which has foam under it, that's still all one sheet. These are all individual, so most of our clients will take 5 to a box with them, so that if they ever get one damaged, the stone gets under your slide, something happens to it, that you can actually warm the floor, bring up one tile, and lay one back in. We just came up to where they have taken that frame that you saw. They would have taken it out, brought it around the building, come in this side of the building. So you can see the floors on. You can see this tape. After they wrapped the Darco, they went around this all with tape. Some of the little features that I want you to see that we can do because we are not piece rate is things that they take the time to do, like the sealant that they put on the sides of the plywood. And they do this because this floor is not wrapped up here, so they do this to give you extra protection for the coach. Those are little things that they do. You notice that our framework is wood filled to keep the integrity of the aluminum and also to give us more strength when we're attaching the floors. You can see that they have more of the foam wrap for the water lines that they're going to use when they finish the docking station up here. Then they will also wrap those water lines so that they are enclosed just like the ones that went into the underbelly. You can also see the axles. We didn't really touch on the axles, but all of them are 8,000s. These happen to be 9s because this is a 39-foot unit, and it has 2 9,000-pound axles instead of 3 8s. But still, we have automotive disc brakes, H-rated tires, 17.5-inch wheels. The Elites all have MoRide IS suspension. And so these are some of the features that, you know, really stand out and set us apart from our competitors, and most of it is in the build. We're going to walk up here and look at the walls because a lot of you have heard us talk about our new walls, and we went into this new graphite infused foam. It's a 2.5-inch core, which makes our walls about 3 inches thick when they're done. They are vacuum bonded, which is the best and most efficient way of building a wall like that. But one of the things that really caught my eye when I looked at the very first one that we ever did was that we kept a lot of the things that we had when we did a hung wall. And that was that we kept a lot of the structure within our frame. We kept extra thickness around all the slides of the aluminum. We still continue to fill everywhere that is weight bearing or that we need strength to fill it with wood. You can see the thickness of that wall. This is an important feature here. Many companies have gone back to attaching their fiberglass to Luan. And when we had a problem getting enough Luan, we went to Azdale. And Azdale, this backer right here, is not affected by moisture. And so we continued with this. We didn't go back to the Luan because it was not as good a product. So we stayed with the Azdale. Our fiberglass is the top grade fiberglass where the gel coat is worked through the piece of fiberglass so it can be repaired to new. That's why our paint jobs are so nice. And if you notice on this wall that they're laid down, when we used to do the soft touch walls in the hung wall system, the walls came in with the soft touch attached. When we went to the vacuum bond process, the better process, they then had to add a station into our line so that they could manually put on our soft touch. So this is another step that takes time that I appreciate that they didn't exclude. because of the way the walls are built. The walls are much stronger, but we still want to have this feature. And so these guys take the time to line each wall with our soft touch in our Elites. Another feature that you'll see is in the corner window areas that we still have the plastic pieces so that we don't have metal on metal. A lot of companies around the windows will use wood, and wood is not the best thing to have around windows. We still keep the aluminum with the plastic inserts, and you can see the thickness. But the one thing that was really, I hadn't thought about until after we got one in, and that is that the windows, the doors, the slides, openings, all of that now is precision cut. So now we have much more precise cuttings in our windows and our doors and our slides. They stay the same. When you did a hung wall, you had to route all those areas out manually. And so, you know, anytime you do anything like that manually, there's much more room for error. So this gave us a much more precise cut, much more consistency, windows, doors fitting perfectly. So that was a big feature, as well as in our new walls. And all the walls and everything that we build are the same. Doesn't matter if you buy a gold, a toy hauler, or an Elite. They all have the same walls. Same superstructure goes into everything. We moved to another station quickly, and but I wanted to show you, like I said, these are kind of my bullet points, things that I saw very unique in the Luxe build when they asked me to join this team. And one of them is in the front and the rear caps. In the majority of the units that are out there in the industry, they do not insulate the front and rear caps. Some of them will use astrofoil because astrofoil is very easy to use because it can just be glued on to the backer on there. And so some of them will do that. But like I said, they give our workers the time to do more precision work, to do the final touches that makes our coach really unique. And one of them is here. And I was talking to some of the production people the other day about the time that it takes to do this correctly. To insulate our cap, where most of them might have astrofoil and that is it, and then the either plastic or gel coat cap goes on, we do the astrofoil, then they run the wiring, and then they come around. They've just started this one, and they take the bad insulation, and they actually put 2 layers in it. And after they got the layers, while one of them's holding it up, another one goes with this heavy tape, and they tape it here, and they run it clear across, 2 places underneath here, and they'll do it 3 places on the top. And I think this takes them an hour and a half to 2 hours to actually get this all in place and taped correctly, because you cannot compress the insulation or it loses its R factor. So they tape it in place. It's also glued. The first layer is glued on, and then the second layer is taped. And then they go onto the roof, and about a few inches behind where the cap is going to attach to the roof, they bring another big sheet of Darko, the vapor barrier material that I told you about that we use on the floor. And they bring that up and they attach it just behind where the cap is going to seal to the roof. They wrap it around. They will put some wood pieces in here, and they'll wrap that Darko around, and it will come down to about here. And they will staple it all in place, and that's going to hold all of that insulation up there in place along with the tape. And then if you do get any moisture, you have Darko, which is a vapor barrier, so it's not going to go into your insulation. It's not going to go into any wood if you had the shoebox or anything up here. It actually protects it, and the Darko gives you another layer. So we actually have in a front cap where most of them have none, some of them have 1 layer. We're going to have 4 layers of insulation in our caps. And that is huge because that is what you catch when you're going down the roads. Sometimes that's where your bed is. So you're in the front cap. Many coaches, you can open the closet doors and feel a temperature change. That's not the case in our coaches. And this is why. And again, because we're not piece rate build, they have the time to be able to do these extra features that you just don't see anywhere. And if you notice, you even see it up under the neck in this coach. A lot of us, we talk about our paint jobs, and you know, we've had some pretty unique ones come out. You've seen pictures of them. And one of the reasons that our paint jobs are so unique and look so finished is because we do not paint on the fiber, on the material that comes over the edge of the roof. On our roof, you will have the same features. In our roof, you have astrofoil, layers of the pink insulation, then you have 3/8 plywood, we leave a breathing space, then you have the TPO compound put on, and then we do a radius metal, the full length of the coach. And the reason that's important is because some companies will either not paint that section, which makes the paint jobs look different, or they will paint over that material, which is going to crack and eventually flake off. We go that extra mile, put metal the full length of the coach. And that's so important because when we paint it, now your paint schemes, your coaches are going to look new for much longer. And you've heard us say many times that we do, on every coach, we do paint, and it's automotive grade paint. Then we do multiple coats of clear, wet sand cut and buff. And we go, again, the extra mile, I feel, because we even paint our names. We don't do any decals whatsoever on our coaches. And it's what keeps them looking so nice and so new. Ed and I have walked from the back of the building, made a couple stops with you out through the plant, and if you noticed I was getting out of breath, that's because I'm old. So we came up to the front of the line where we have my favorite floor plan, the 42RL. This unit is getting ready to deliver tomorrow, so we have to be very careful as we're walking through it. They had it closed up for delivery, but we just wanted to show you some features that I did not stop at individual stations, and a couple of the things I wanted to talk about. One of them is in our roof. We talked very briefly about our roof, but our ductwork in our roof is very, very important as well. Because many people will tell you that they are dual zoned because their thermostats are dual zoned because they have more than one air conditioner on the roof. We are a true dual zone coach, and the reason I say that is because we actually do not run one big racetrack from the front of the unit to the back like all the rest of them do. They may have multiple airs, but they have one big circle of ductwork. So if you set your bedroom to be colder, it's going to also affect your downstairs because it's all one big circle. We have a zone for the front and a zone for the back. And there's a couple reasons that that's important. And one of them is that you can actually keep the bedroom cooler if you want to sleep and not freeze everybody out downstairs. If ever you by chance had to stop somewhere and only had a 30 amp site for a night or so, you actually, because we have solid core doors, we have thick walls, a well insulated roof, you could close off the bedroom, turn the air for the downstairs on, and so while you're sitting down here during the day, you can be cool in a 44-foot unit. And when you get ready to go to bed, you shut this air off, you turn on the one in the bedroom, keep the doors closed, and you can be cool while you sleep till you get to a 50 amp setting where you can turn everything on at once. So it has multiple purposes, but you actually can keep the rooms individually tempered at different temperatures because because of our doors, our walls, and the way we run our ductwork. So that is important. And of course, one of my big features about our coaches is our cabinetry. We're very residential. The cabinetry that we put in, of course, this is beachfront. They, in this coach, have combined their woods. They have a Brazilian island. They have beachfront cabinetry. You get to pick the color of your countertop. You get to pick the color of your backsplash. But one of the big features is our drawers. Our drawers, everything in here, even inside our hutches, are soft closed drawers. So every drawer is soft closed, but the biggest feature is, and you can see it on this insert as well, they have made this for your sink covers to store in underneath this piece. But if you look at this, you'll see you have a front and the thickness of that wood. If you notice, a lot of people will have this front. You see it here. But when you get to the sides, this will be colored layered wood. You might still have pin nails in the back of your drawer to hold it together. Where this is all dovetailed. And not only does he dovetail it, and all of these wood pieces are all the same thickness. And one of the biggest feature is, like right here, a huge amount of your coaches out there, this is going to be wallboard or fiberboard. This is where all the weight goes. It's not going to be wood. This is solid wood. Same thickness on the sides of the drawers. All dovetailed. And then he doesn't just dovetail them, he sands it and seals it. And so he just has a beautiful finish on these, on all the drawers, and it's that way throughout the coach. It's not just certain ones that you see all the time. It's every drawer in this coach is built the same way. The drawer fronts, again, solid wood, and if you notice, we're just not squared off and put together. We have angle cuts, we have raised inside panels. The finish on them are just amazing. In this particular floor plan, you have the big double door pantry. And people have done a lot of different things with this, and so remember that we can tailor. And by tailoring, if you wanted to have certain features on this altered, we can do that. We're not ground up custom, but we can make this unit very personal for you and make it so that it works for what you want to do with it. You can see our floors, we put minimal carpet in. You have the ability or the opportunity to put the marine grade here if you'd like, so you don't have any carpet. We have the soft touch walls, which help keep this quiet. You can just see the finish on the coach. You can hear it, and if you notice, as we walk around, you don't hear a lot of movement of the coach. Leveling gears are all down. And so what I was telling you about having those legs at an angle, you don't feel all the movement in this coach. So we just wanted to bring you inside. I'm not going to walk you through this whole coach because I've walked you through the 42 before, but I wanted to bring you into a finished coach. You saw a lot of pieces. I want you to hear some of the bullet points that I find very unique about our company. There are many more than what I just told you, but those are some of them that I find to be really unique because of the fact of how we build, how our production line is run, and how they're given the ability to do quality work. As you've heard me say many times, most companies will build 8 to 15 a day, some 8 to 15 a week. We're at 2 to 3 a week. But we want you to have a quality build. We want you to enjoy it. It's a true full-time build. And so I hope you enjoyed some of those bullet points. I may come across some more in the future that we'll bring out. But if you have any questions, please call the factory and talk to one of the sales reps. And if I don't get an opportunity before, we're very close to the holiday season. So we want to thank you guys for all the time you spent with us and all the opportunities you gave us. And I want to wish you a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year's. Hopefully, we'll see a bunch of you at Tampa right after the New Year. Thank you.